The Phasieland Fairy Tales, Book 6, Dangerous Sports Car Races and the Return of Astra. Phasie didn't try to go to Phasieland for a few days. He wanted to think of a plan to meet with Astra. He figured that he had to surprise her with something. "What kind of boys do girls like?" he asked his mom while having his favorite breakfast, oatmeal. "And who have you decided to get to like you?" "Nobody. I was just asking," replied Phasie, slightly blushing. "I think girls like heroes and winners." Phasie was delighted with his mother's answer. He wanted to be a hero in Astra's eyes. He himself knew that any girl with a brain would fall for a boy who had everyone's attention. It didn't matter whether he was good or bad. That's just how girls are. But as it often happens, the only place where the plan turned out to be easy was in Phasie's dreams. Once Phasie appeared in Phasieland, he immediately proceeded to carrying out his plan, winning a race with Astra watching, after which she was to come running after him on her own initiative, and they were to become friends again in real life outside of Phasieland. When Phasie arrived at the racetrack, there were already 5 cars at the starting line. He picked the red one, the best-looking one, and waited for the starting pistol to fire. "Now you'll see what I can do," Phasie said to himself upon spotting Astra in the audience. The race started. All of the cars roared and abruptly surged forward. Phasie lagged behind, but he soon transformed his car's regular engine into a rocket-powered one using the power of his mind. He got 5 laps ahead of his competitors. Everyone congratulated him. The only person not impressed with the race was Astra. She didn't even look at him. Phasie sighed heavily, for the plan hadn't worked. All the next day, Phasie and OOBE played in the yard with their toy cars. As usual, Astra tried to simply not notice them. "Spar is a really strong guy," she would say casually, walking past the boys. "It's as though she's fallen in love with him," Phasie grumbled as he watched her pass by. "It serves him right. Let him suffer from her antics," laughed OOBE as he was trying to win the sandbox race with his toy car. Phasie suddenly said that his car had a rocket engine. After that, it took off into the air, and it was impossible to catch up to it. Phasie expected that his friend would now admit defeat and congratulate him on his victory. But OOBE got offended instead. He lost interest in racing and started building sandcastles. At that moment, Phasie realized that there was some kind of connection between OOBE's reaction and Astra's. In both cases, he had won the race, but nobody really cared. "Are you offended?" "Of course. After all, you're not playing fairly." "It's not my fault that my car had a rocket engine." "It is your fault, trickster. Any moron can win that way," noted OOBE as he continued to play all by himself. That's when Phasie finally understood what he had done wrong. It turns out that winning alone is not enough. You need to do it honestly, because otherwise nobody else will value your win. Everything turned out to be more difficult than he had expected, but now he would be able to win Astra's attention for sure. That night, Phasie dreamt that he was being chased by an enormous dump truck. He was initially afraid, but then he realized that it was a dream. And as soon as you realize that you're dreaming, you're already in Phasieland. Then, Phasie once again landed on the racetrack and picked out his red machine on the starting line. He could discern Astra and Looter rooting for him in the vast crowd. Suddenly, familiar but offensive voices could be heard in the vicinity. "Loser! You haven't got a chance!" Phasie looked around. It turns out that the one-eyed and one-armed aliens that he recognized from before were sitting in a yellow car next to him. As soon as the race began, they immediately rushed out ahead without Phasie having a chance to react, leaving him in last place. It was only just before the finish line that he figured out how to operate his car without cheating. The aliens won the race. The next time Phasie appeared in Phasieland, it was already very early in the morning. Stubborn, he sat back in his red car on the start line. "What? You can't win playing fair?" "Wuss," the cocky aliens said as they stuck their tongues out at him from the next car. "Look who's talking. You're the ones who are snails without shells who can't win playing fair," Phasie shouted back at the poor aliens who were on the verge of tears from the comparison. Then they got mad and won the race again. Phasie had nearly caught up with them when he ran into a blue car with penguins of some sort in it at the finish line. "Oh, is he in pain?" he heard Astra's voice say as the doctors pulled him from the machine. "He'll be stitched up in time for the wedding," snickered the little dragon Luder in response, as Phasie fell blissfully asleep to the thought of Astra playing nurse. Feeling that he'd already achieved his goal, Phasie caught the magic minute again on his next awakening. He imagined himself in his red car and appeared in it almost instantly. The final race had begun. "Go, Phasie, we believe in you," shouted Astra and Luder from the stands. "I'll do my best," yelled Phasie as he stepped on the gas pedal with all his might. After overtaking the other racers with a thunderous roar, his car caught up with the aliens. Both cars, their yellow one and his red one, were neck and neck up to the very last lap. During the home stretch, Phasie gave it gas and started to gradually overtake the aliens. Just a little more and he would win. But no, the tricky aliens pushed Phasie's car back with their green hands and pulled ahead right when it counted. However, unintelligent life exists not only among our fellow Earthlings, but also among people in faraway corners of the universe. The aliens had completely forgotten that they had only one arm each, and that neither of them was holding the steering wheel. The yellow car started to skid and crashed into a fence just in front of the finish line. Thus, Phasie won the race in an honest way by just being persistent. "Well done," said Astra as she gave him a hug. "I was so worried that my wings nearly fell out," Luder complained. "It was easy," was all Phasie could utter in exhaustion. Thousands of spectators in the stands cheered the winner. After Phasie was awarded an enormous trophy, they walked through the prettiest places in Phasieland and ate chocolate ice cream. Astra finally made up with Phasie, for which he was quite grateful, and that victory was much more important than winning any race. Immediately after breakfast, Phasie ran to find Astra. She was playing dolls together with the other girls. "Do you remember how I won the race in Phasieland?" "Race," said Astra, at first taken aback. But then she added enigmatically, "Of course, hero. Are we friends again? But we never weren't friends in the first place. How's that?" "As if," replied Astra in true Valley Girl style. "You'd better tell me, are you going with us to swim in the lake this weekend?" "Of course. After all, I know how to swim." Phasie was happy that he could be friends with Astra again, but he had mixed feelings. The problem was that although he was the winner of the race, he actually couldn't swim. He needed to do something about that, as Astra had been a swimmer for a year already and always laughed at non-swimmers like him. A few more words from Uncle Michael. Dear friend, you now know that nobody needs a dishonest victory. No matter how much you win by, nobody will value it. You also saw how you can control not only flying saucers, but also race cars in Phasieland. You can even take a motorcycle or tank for a test drive, and this is not some computer game. It all takes place in the real world. While Phasie solves the next problem in his relationship with Astra, you can try to enter Phasieland yourself at night in order to have fun with your friends not only during the day, but also at night when everyone's sleeping. Just don't forget about the magic minute of awakening and repeat everything that our hero Phasie does. Get all 10 fairy tales online at www.phasieland.com.